Illuvium has spent just over $60 million and still don't have hundreds of thousands of players in their game. But what are they actually doing to fix it? I have found 8 major mistakes Illuvium has made over the past 4 years, 2 of which, in my opinion, they still have not fixed. Like yourself, I sometimes ask myself if Illuvium continues to make the same error over and over again, and if it's really still worth my time being here. Because of that, I went back in history, dug deep and did the research so that we can find the answer as if they've turned the ship around and they're making really good progress. Not only will I go over each mistake, I'll also note how and if they are changing things for the better. Now, the first thing we can see here is that the ILV price is at let's say it's at a low. It's not been doing too hot as of late. But what you will notice is when you go to the market cap and you look at the all chart, it actually doesn't look that bad. We've been in a bear market since 2022, and the ILV token price hasn't really fallen below that. Obviously, many people have different opinions on these sorts of things, but I think it's pretty interesting to have perspective on all of this. If you still hold ILV tokens like myself, then I'm not convinced it's worth selling anymore because it looks like there's only room to move upwards from more or less the position we're in right now. Now, could the ILV token make a comeback? That is kind of what we're going to be going over today as I go over every mistake Illuvium has made in the past, starting with the first one, which is unrealistic timelines. We can see here from a really old roadmap that they slated for 2023, Illuvium Beyond Wave 1, which I think happened. A lot of this sort of stuff happened. 2024 had Arena Mobile, which definitely didn't happen. Beyond Wave 4, which happened well beyond that. I think even Beyond Wave 3 was either late 2024, it might have even been this year in 2025. So you can see that this roadmap, they didn't exactly nail it. We've got this, which is a more updated roadmap, which said Arena Mobile in 2025. Let's see if that happens. Beyond Wave 4 did not happen in 2024, I don't think. Beyond Wave 3, definitely, I don't think it did either, or at least not in Q2. And so this roadmap was a bit unrealistic as well. They promised the initial launch of the game really like a year before reality from memory. They suggested the mobile launch in 2024, and these are understandable mistakes for a first-time studio in any of the video game industry, but Web3 in particular. But as of lately, they've been overly conservative with new roadmaps. Honestly, I think they should be less conservative than they currently are. But really, with their recent roadmaps and structures and things like that, they've hit every single target within about 30 days for all of their arena updates that they were proposing. And they've done a lot of that sort of stuff for the past 12 months. So I think they've definitely corrected this mistake and they've been much better. But the final 2 mistakes I'm going to go over in this video are things that Illuvium is yet to fix and could be disastrous if they're not careful. But before we get to that, please like and subscribe down below, use my referral code, and let's get onto rapid growth. After the major cost cutting that Illuvium exercised right here, speed for development actually got a lot faster. But what this shows is that clearly the company became very, very bloated a long time ago, and cutting costs, they started to speed up their development. This tells you a lot about kind of the areas that they were focused in, if nothing else. They were spending a lot of time on art and things like that, rather than development of the titles, gameplay mechanics, and things like that. And it clearly caused some issues for them and their runway and stuff like that, right? So much of it was beneficial, but maybe not all of it was necessary. However, they have continued cutting unnecessary costs, especially on the server infrastructure and things like that. And they have the ability to cut costs further if needed. But this isn't the only mistake they made in this realm. The other one is that they were focusing on too many projects at once. We can see Kieran state right here, they discussed with the council a few months back that the best way forward regarding Zero is to make the landholders happy with revenue generation. To do that, they had to make some tough decisions to extend our runway and build up the existing products that have the best chance to generate revenue. They stopped all production on Zero, focused on Arena, and then on Overworld into MMO Lite. This doesn't mean they've abandoned Zero, but it does mean that development is on hold right now, and we are consistently assessing things, and when we start generating enough revenue to justify building new features in Zero, we will do so. But as mentioned, their main focus is earning revenue through their land parcel. Gameplay is second. While better gameplay on Zero may increase revenue, they personally believe that it doesn't have the same potential as the Arena or the MMO Lite. They spent so much time developing 3 games at once when the end goal should have always been revenue, and those 3 games weren't necessarily the best path there. Since then, they cut back their costs, they cut back their strategy, they just focused on one product at a time to get it to a finished enough state so that it has even the potential to generate revenue. No one's going to spend money on a half-finished game, and so that became the priority. So, in summary, dividing their focus really did them a lot more harm than good, and they've been focusing on Arena, and they did a really good job with it. They put out massive updates every single month, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. That being said, the MMO has also been developing along really fast, even though we haven't seen the most amount of information from it. We are going to see a lot more over the course of October and November and things like that as well. So that's very exciting, but it wasn't just working on the 3 games. There was something else that slowed them down as well. And we're going to check out this leak from back in 2023, June 2023. We could see a bunch of different assets they developed. We could see just how complete, okay, I'm going to mute this. We could see just how complete that Tiger Boreal actually became. This is from 2023, okay? Now, a lot of time was spent on developing these assets, environments, and all the rest of it. A region that won't be released for 3+ years after it was initially basically blocked out completely. And a lot of time was spent on things like this that are not going to be used into the distant future. Okay, that's a lot of wasted resources, time, money, development costs, time that Roger could have been spending on other things and stuff like that, right? It was so much time, and as of late, only art is being done on things actively needed for the MMO. They're doing that really well right now, so this is something they've fixed pretty well. But this caused a lot of damage to the project overall, and zero time has been wasted on the new arena upgrades, on the new MMO light features and combat, even on things like Breach that was really useful in the current now that the Illuvium project desperately needs. It's highly focused on MMO and combat gameplay and all the rest of it, but something else got lost along the way, and that is ownership. So Season 1 of Ascendant Arena began in January 25, 2024, okay? Ascendant launched with a ton of players. It had at least 5,000 players from memory, a ton. Not nearly as many as we have now. We don't have nearly that many right now. Now, it was also really exciting due to alluvial ownership playing a massive role, but the gameplay itself left people wanting. It was very telegraphed. There's not much of a better way to describe it. But the problem was that it never got any major overhauls or new attempts at success. I would say that Illuvium pivoted way too often, okay? They developed too many products at once, they spent time on things that they didn't need to, and they kept pivoting too often, which erased any progress that they did make. Those 3 mistakes together caused a lot of issues, but they haven't done those mistakes again for the past 12 months. They've been doing really well moving forward. Now, it also got pivoted away from ownership into free-to-play Gauntlet mode. Now, I love Gauntlet. I think it's a great game to bring in a lot of different players and things like that from other genres and people that are fans of auto battles in general, but pivoting away from ownership could hurt Illuvium in the long run as well. And Leviathan Gauntlet has proven demand for it now. Illuvium just needs to take the time to really build out the ownership component of the arena, or just focus on the ownership component in the MMO light. So hopefully we get the 1v1 back in some form. This is another thing that Kieran, I think, didn't want to see happen, okay? And we've got a comment from him here on a video. All right, here we go.
What the trap that we sort of fell into is that external pressure. Instead of us building in a silo, we have people who are like, release this game now, and you said it would be here. A delay is met with investor sell-off, not so much like, I'm disappointed because I wanted to play this game. And so that external pressure has the potential to make founders make decisions that they normally wouldn't. And so my advice would be, as a founder, you know your product better than anyone. If you don't think it's ready, no matter what anyone says, almost in every single case, it is better to ensure that the product is ready and at the standard that you set personally.
So they launched too soon. Now, I was on the council that approved the launch of the game as well. And really, this is not all on Illuvium Labs. The council and the DAO as a whole was the thing that pushed to have the game released. But the game was simply not fun beyond the first 7 days you might play it. And everyone in the community team and everything really they knew it. Some of us didn't want to believe it, but in the end we knew it. And there was really too much pressure after all the messed up timelines and other mistakes I mentioned previously in the video. Now, the lack of demand in the game itself messed up the economy, so that needed to be catered for a little bit better. But the economy has since been fixed. They rectified a lot of those issues. The alluvials aren't inflating too much because they fixed up a lot of the cost to enter the game and things like that. And the MMO Lite will also add many NFT syncs. So they are going to right that ship very, very quickly. Now, it will likely be in testnet for a while before a proper release. I'm talking about the MMO Lite. And I think that that could have its pros and its cons, but the team is definitely not going to release something until it is absolutely ready. And they're not going to delay it either. If it's like 99% perfect, they're not going to wait. Okay. They're not going to go that crazy either. They're not going to go crazy the other way. They're definitely going to make sure that everything and the stars are all aligning. But what are those two mistakes I'm talking about? Okay. The two mistakes that they have not fixed yet. The first one is a lack of content over time. Now, back in the day, about 2 years ago, the first 150 alluvials were released. Since then, we've had no new alluvials. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but no new content after the first alluvials is really bad long-term for any video game or any live service video game, that is, okay? Every top game thrives on new content. Now, them releasing too early did cause some harm to this. It's a bit of a problem, but even the arena is suffering from the lack of characters available to play in the game. Now, TCG Pocket, League of Legends, and TFT, they all need quarterly content injections. Illuvium can't wait until the MMO, but if they wait too long for, they can wait till the MMO, sorry. If they wait too long for new alluvials, their existing player base will continue to dwindle and it will hurt them over and over in the long term unless they start getting a lot of new content out. Now, when I first made this script, we didn't see anything about new alluvials. They have since mentioned it. Roger did make a leak about it. So that's really exciting. But this right here, these are new characters. They're not new alluvials, but you can see the excitement around all the new characters and that they're going to use it to pad out the MMO Lite and make it feel more exciting and more lively and things like that. This sort of stuff is good, but I'm just afraid they're not going to commit to doing constant content updates and content injections every single quarter like I really think they need to. That is a mistake they have to make sure they do not make heading into the end of 2025 and all throughout 2026. But this last one is going to kill you, okay? Now, there's no select group got to test out the Breach game mode, okay? This is the Breach game mode right here. You can go in, it's like a roguelike, you get different upgrades and things, you go out and battle alluvials. Really great to see the combat mechanics from this are going to make it into the MMO Lite. But the feedback this would have gotten from the community would have been invaluable for developing the MMO, making sure it was fun, making sure the gameplay was exciting, make sure it's smooth and running well. And I just simply think they wait way too late. I know they don't want to put out things with little placeholder characters like you see in this Breach gameplay, but I think it's incredibly important that you test the prototype with as many people outside of your bubble as possible. Not even the Illuvium community, just anyone you can get in that loves these sorts of games, but even isn't necessarily an Illuvium community member. You need to test it with these people. It is high risk that the gameplay will need to be reworked after you've finished prototyping, essentially. You don't want to rework it then, okay? The prototype is where you do all your reworking. If the community doesn't enjoy it and they need to rework it deeply after the prototyping phase is finished, it would just cause so much harm to the project, so much harm to Illuvium, and cause so many problems, okay? If you're considering playing Illuvium, please check out if Illuvium is still worth it right up here.